Songwriter, pianist, and sound stylist, LaToya Renea uses any genre or instrument to share messages of love, truth, and overcoming. Today, I talk one-on-one with LaToya for this edition of Quintin's Close-Ups. And if you haven't already, subscribe to my YouTube channel and like Quintin's Close-Ups on Facebook. LaToya Renea, welcome to Quintin's Close-Ups.
Thank you for having me.
You know, you are a songwriter, a pianist, and a sound stylist who actually sees your music as a miracle, a miraculous tool, a gift that is. Let me ask you, as an artist, what's new, what's now with you?
Right now, I'm currently living in Atlanta, Georgia, where I am just going deeper with music. I'm currently working for a church out here where I get to play and delve into the music even more and meeting a lot more musicians and getting into some of the TV and film placement world and a little bit of touring.
You talk about digging deeper into that music. What are you doing now in Atlanta that you couldn't do here in Charleston?
Well, definitely the people, right? So everywhere you go, every musician is going to be different because they're going to come from different places. So the music that you hear in Charleston is the music that you hear in Charleston. The styles, the grooves, everything. Here in Atlanta, you won't have those same styles and grooves. That's just the nature of music. So I think that traveling allows me to absorb and also resources. I do believe that there are a lot more lucrative opportunities for music here in Atlanta than there are in Charleston.
And what resources did you lack here in Charleston?
When you say resources,
yeah, you just mentioned earlier about the resources you have in Atlanta. What were those resources that you have now in Atlanta that you didn't have here in Charleston?
Money. That's a big one. Other than that, I mean, the resources are all inside of me. The source and the resources are all inside of me. So no matter where I go, they are always there. But definitely, like I said, there are opportunities for TV and film as a musician that aren't here in South Carolina. And also when it comes to the corporate world of weddings and things like that, not that there are more opportunities, but there are definitely more corporate opportunities. And then also, Atlanta has a beautiful international airport.
Yes, that's exactly right. That's exactly right. So let me go back because you said that you're a songwriter, pianist, and a sound stylist who actually sees your music as a miraculous tool and gift. So what other tools are you using to make your music a gift?
Definitely every opportunity that I get to minister in the four walls of the church is definitely the tool that I use. People, you know, music would be nothing without people. And we need so I believe people are the tool that I use. They're the inspiration that I pull from. And then there are also the people that I get to give this music back to as a gift. So I draw from them and I give back to them. So it's a wonderful tool. And I think that's the main one.
And what are you drawing from people right now? And what are you actually giving back to people as an artist?
Right now, I'm drawing from their stories. You know, I think we are all in a place where we are not afraid to dream anymore. You know, we have gone through a nice break. We'll call it that. We've gone through a great break. And during that time, we've had a lot of time to talk and to think and to process. And with that, I'm just working on the people around me more so and drawing from them their stories and also being a part of those stories as well. For instance,
yes, ma'am.
Right now, instead of me just playing at churches, that used to be a big thing. I used to do that a lot. Instead of just playing, now I'm actually being a part of their lives and being a part of shaping. So for instance, there's a young lady, a young man who want to sing a bit better than they used to. So creating opportunities outside of Sunday service, outside of choir rehearsal even, where we are building our tools together. And I'm giving them the things that I've learned. And then from them, I'm learning about their lives in order to have that relationship. So I would say that's the main way right now.
Now, what people are you using right now to help you build those tools?
Lots of the musicians here
Ah,
in Atlanta, and even some back home,
yes.
but mostly in Atlanta, I find that there's definitely a lot. There are a lot of people who are used to collaborating
Right.
here because that is the nature of the business and the nature of the industry,
Sure.
as you know very well, being in even in the restaurateur group of things. Collaboration is so important.
Sure.
I
Sure.
would say in South Carolina, not to compare and contrast, but since you started the the theme of compare and contrast, Lord knows I love Charleston. I do.
Yes. Yes.
Um, in Charleston, I believe everyone is is definitely getting to the place of collaboration, but everything is very centered sort of around self projects, individualized projects
Yeah.
of launching
Sure.
different, not necessarily pedestals, but launching ideas and movements and even events, which is great. But when it comes to building in the music world specifically, I think that collaboration amongst people collaboratively, collectively is important.
What resources should help build the music industry today?
I think the resources that should help build the industry today are the ones that we've always used, and I'm seeing it more and more now. It's just really the sense of tribe and family and message. So it's the tools of, okay, what is our story and how do we communicate this story collectively?
What is your message through your music?
That music is healing and that music communicates. So it's an opportunity for us to communicate to God and
Yes.
to one another.
Yes.
So that's my message.
And you talked earlier about obviously the good break that we all had 3 years ago. So, what is the biggest difference for you 3 years ago to right now musically?
Oh, and I must say I have to give Charleston credit for this because during that break, right, there are lots of states. I came from New York. So there are lots of states that were completely shut down. And I was able to make much more music in terms of music making, not necessarily money, but I was able to make a lot of music
Sure.
in Charleston because restaurants were not completely shut down.
Right.
So during that time, I brought my small gift of music and I was able to play in so many different areas. And that gift continued to grow because I was able to sharpen my craft in so many restaurants. And even want to shout out the dog park that was over on James Island, the Barrel.
Right.
That was actually a really important part of my coming back to South Carolina and being able to sharpen because that was my first residency that I had with one of my bands. So yeah, the music has definitely grown. It's changed. I'm a lot more settled than I once was when I 3 years ago. And I'm doing more musically, physically, technically than I was 3 years ago. So growth.
Where are you technically and physically?
Well, physically, I'm definitely in Atlanta. So that I understand your question.
Oh yeah.
Technically,
Yes, ma'am.
okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Physically,
I'm just
yeah,
repeating what you just said.
got it. So physically, I'm in Atlanta, but I'll be back in Charleston. I would say at least once every 2 months,
Got it.
right? Because the music is still there. It's the grounds of my music. But also technically, I am in a place where I'm just listening to a lot more harmony than I used to. And I'm rising to the challenge that I used to be afraid of. And I will admit it, that I used to be so afraid of harmony because it would just expand my mind. So I would hear so many sounds that I'd be intimidated, by trying to pick out those sounds and play those sounds. So now I'm in a place where technically where I'm hearing more and taking the time to play those harmonies.
So now that you've actually, overcome those challenges with those harmonies. What exactly are you listening to right now?
Lots of gospel music, lots of church music,
Sure.
lots of Beyonce, lots of, you know, top 40 for weddings. And then also just to myself, I'm listening more to myself as I play. And I'm going back and trying to play what I played. A lot of times, I don't think musicians, we take the time to transcribe ourselves because we're echoing and we are repeating the greats so often that we forget that we are great and that we have a sound and that we need to master that sound, particularly by listening to ourselves, going back to listen to ourselves. So that's what I'm listening to.
So what is your sound, ma'am?
You asked the best questions, Quintin. Man, my sound is just storytelling, and I really want my sound to reverberate, right? Because sound is vibration. When I taught in New York, and in all the courses I've ever taught, when I used to teach pre-K through 12th grade in New York, my first lesson when teaching was always that sound is vibration. That's just the fundamental understanding of music, that sound is vibration. And with that vibration, I want to make sure that the sound that people feel when I dance is the same sound or frequency that they feel when I'm playing keys, when I'm playing bass, when I'm singing. And that's one of love, and that's one of storytelling, telling my stories, other people's stories as well.
What part of the classroom have you brought into the studio?
Oh, wow. I'm going to get super comfy.
Jesus.
So you want to know what I brought from the classroom into the music?
Yeah, what type of skills do you have from the classroom that now you're utilizing in the studio and on stage?
The ability to reach my audience, because when you're in a room full of 4-year-olds and 5-year-olds, you have to keep their attention.
Yeah.
So the ability to connect with my audience, to be very conscious and aware of who they are, their differences,
Sure.
Taking all of that into consideration, and just the love of it. That's something that was in the classroom, and that's something that I make sure that no matter how busy my mind gets or how nervous I may even be in a moment, I bring it back to the main purpose, which is to express, to bring people on this journey, and really to demonstrate love, for them to hear love through me. So that's the focus.
Who is your audience?
Two things, or two groups of people. My audience is the people, or are the people around me when I'm singing or performing or speaking at any time, but also the people that follow me and want to listen to my music because of what they're going through. So I believe a lot of times my audience are people who just can't articulate that heartbreak or that unrequited love. That's my audience for sure. People who are hopeful romantics. Mm-hmm.
Well, that brings me to my next question, ma'am. Which one of your songs that is, actually relates to your audience today?
I would say Doorstep. There's Doorstep. Now I have about at least 150 songs that have not been released. So stay tuned. Stay tuned. Also, I just want to shout out my shirt real quick.
Yes, ma'am. This
LaToya Renea shirt, Divertimento.
Right.
I would say Doorstep. Because the concept of Doorstep is connecting with someone, desiring to connect with someone, and just hoping that after all of your tries of connecting, that they don't just leave your love on the doorstep, your words, your dreams, the the ideas of collaboration. Fill in the blank. Anything you want there, you're hoping that they don't leave it on the doorstep, which is just another way of saying, I hope that this is of none effect. I hope it isn't of none effect. Hope something comes out of it. Hope they don't just walk away. And I think right now in our lives, we are in a place as a world where at the end of the day, we want to connect. We want to connect, whether it's our favorite TV show or no matter what it is, we really want to connect. And we hope that 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 desire that we have doesn't come back to us void and empty. That maybe there's somebody else or an idea or some new hobby that will come back to us and leave us satisfied.
So I'm being redundant, ma'am, but let me ask you this. What are your musical desires?
Great question again. My musical desires are twofold.
Yes, ma'am.
To be able to create and leave behind this legacy. I'm going back to love again,
Sure.
of love through my music, of really being an artist that wasn't concerned about what people thought and made very honest and authentic music,
right,
while at the same time did so in a way that allowed me to make certain business moves that will produce funding for me to build other businesses.
Yes.
Like my juice bar.
Right. Oh, yes.
You know, things that on the onset or like from first glance, they look like they have nothing to do with music, but because it's my life and it's my journey, right, they do. Yes. So my desire to build a juice bar or start a juice bar, yay, a studio, these other things that also will be the tangible things alongside my music, that when I am no longer present in this body, that will go on and live beyond me. Those are my desires with music.
And ma'am, you talk about obviously producing honest and authentic music. Why is that missing in today's music industry?
I wouldn't say it's missing, actually. You know, I don't think authentic music is missing at all. I think the ability to connect with it, whether it be because we don't know it exists. A lot of times we just can't find that authentic sound. It's there. It's always been there. Will always be. Every creature in every creed and every nation. Right. No matter where you go on this planet, you're going to find authentic artists and musicians. Sometimes, though, we don't go the distance to find them. Or sometimes they haven't gotten to the place where they're ready to release it. So, yeah.
Well, let me ask you this. What artist or artist resembles your music?
I would say artists that resemble my music, I'm going to reach back for this answer, would be people like Van Hunt, people like Bilal, people like Nina Simone, people like Bob Marley. In terms of current artists, I would say people like Cameron Westcott. He's from Charleston, South Carolina. Huh. Oh man, he's an incredible bass player.
Okay.
And he just knows how to keep the main thing. There's such a purity in his music, such a rawness, and I think that's what my music represents, sort of this raw organicness, but yet this reaching for the discipline of the music as well.
So what has been that discipline for music?
Always touching the keyboard. when I get up or when I go to bed, making sure that not a day goes by that I don't touch that keyboard. You know, a lot of times in certain circles, we use the bandstand to practice. We use that moment, that performance to practice.
Wow.
Versus the everyday. And what's so funny that I've learned about this music,
Yes, ma'am.
because there's no top to it. There's no top, there's no bottom to it. What I've learned is that the devotion of touching the instrument, not even always doing something technically demanding or challenging all the time, but just touching the instrument, that devotion and that commitment is the discipline.
So, who are you on the keyboard?
On the keyboard, I am just an emotional being that gets to emote through every note and is constantly reaching.
Right.
I feel like when I'm on the keys, there is no middle ground. I'm either just reaching and reaching for that other style, that other chord, or I'm just having the best time of my life. And that's who I am on keys.
So, what will be your musical style 5, 10 years from now?
I think 5, 10 years from now, my musical style will continue to sort of be this eclectic soul mix of all my favorite things. I do see myself returning back to classical music a bit more. I studied classical music at Nyack College. I had an amazing teacher. Well, and she was from Bishopville, South Carolina. Her name is Miss Gwendolyn Bradley.
Okay.
And I was singing Samuel Barber and Wolf and some great arias and songs. And I would say returning to classical music. And I think my musical style would be a bit deeper in the writing aspect of jazz and classical and gospel. So for now, you can definitely hear the jazz and gospel influences. However, those influences are things that I've heard. I think the musical style will shift, and that now that classical jazz and gospel will be the music that I write and give out.
So, ma'am, let me ask you, what is shifting right now in the music industry overall?
The vanguards in the music industry, I think, are always shifting, even though it kind of seems like there are always the same vanguards.
Yes,
but
ma'am.
That can't always be because life moves on. But I think what's shifting in the music industry now is there's a level of humility that I think is present, and that break that we took 3 years ago sort of had a lot to do with it, because it brought everybody to this place where no matter who you were, if you were selling out the State Farm Arena, you could not play. And you had to find a way to get your music to people through the internet. And so it put you on the same platform as, the 10th grader making, that no one knows about, making music on GarageBand. It put everybody on this common ground, so to speak. So I think there's a humility now that causes us to look a little closer at the next artist versus, well, they don't have this, so let me pass it. They don't know that person. So now we're looking like, ooh, what do they have that can help me?
Yes.
Yeah.
And ma'am, let me ask you one last question. Well, two. This is probably the second to the last, actually. But now that we're past COVID in some aspects, what should be the common ground for music?
Being that we are past COVID, I mean, the common ground right now should be for us to play. If you are a musician, singer, songwriter, whoever it is, now is the time to release as much music as you can, as often as you can. I really believe that that's the goal.
Yes, yes, yes. And I just came back from Nashville just a week ago. Love that city. One of the best cities in the world for music and all that. So I appreciate Nashville and musicians like yourself now more than ever. But you told me in the beginning of this particular interview, ma'am, that you have over 150 songs, some of them that you haven't actually released yet. So when you look at your playlist right now, which one of those songs actually describes you as a person?
Hmm. I think, and not even to be sappy, I think the one would be King Jesus. There's a part in that says, I believe, around the second or third verse. It's I love him though I have not seen, for his spirit dwells in me. Do I love King Jesus? Yes, I do. And the last part is, by his grace we'll overcome. Through his grace we will prevail. Yes. And I think this notion of prevailing that my life represents right now, outside of all the love stories that come and go, it's this notion of being able to prevail. And that is what my life reflects right now.
Wow. Wow. That's really amazing. Well, Miss LaToya Renea, thank you so much for your time. And again, welcome to Quintin's Close-Ups.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you, Quintin.
Thank you.